What's up, guys? This is episode 9 of the Rambler. It's been a while since we put out a video on this thing, but we're gonna catch you up on some rear end fabrication. We're gonna be working on the transmission tunnel, and we're building a work of art for that exhaust. What are we thinking? Let's get into it. First things first, everybody, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel to keep up with, these build videos as well as a lot of exciting things we got going forward. Remember to check out our website if you want any of this merch or hats or whatever you want, go over there and check that out. And let's get into the build. We start out using our plasma cutter, cutting out some shock brackets to go on that 9-inch rear end and get that thing buttoned up. Once we get those brackets welded on the rear end, we can then put it back in and check for clearances and bolt everything up. With the rear end back in the car, we can see that the e-brake brackets are just going to be a little too close to comfort on that inside fender well. We couldn't go with any wider of a rear end because we didn't want to modify the fenders. So what we have to do is try to section inside the fender well. We were able to cut and move in the clearance that we needed so that when the suspension travels, we have no brake issues. After the first side was done, it's on over to the other side. For the transmission tunnel on this car, we need it removable. So you need to have 2 matching pieces. To do this and make it a little easier, what I did was programmed on our plasma cutter a flange that will go around and get welded to the floor in the opening, as well as provide a match set to start building the tunnel to. Once the flanges are welded into the floor, I can then bolt my flanges for the tunnel down, and those are my dimensional starting points to start shaping the tunnel. There are plenty of ways to go about shaping a transmission tunnel. There's a lot more tools that we don't have, and there's a lot more skills that I don't have to get to this point. But what I did was I started with a start and end point in different sections of the transmission tunnel that I needed to shape it around the transmission. And then I was able to just make smaller pieces that went between them. So I basically had a start point and an end point. This also breaks up the size pieces that you need to get right. So if you're off by a little bit on a small piece, it's a lot easier to deal with than being off with a big piece. Inside the car while I'm shaping this, I use the MIG welder just to tack everything in place and get some good beads on there, and then it will get removed and finished TIG welded. Next up was one of the biggest hurdles of this car, that 4-inch full exhaust. Now, this drivetrain, the way the ride height is, it doesn't really leave much room for error. So my dad was taking lead on this. It probably took a few years off his life and probably added a few more gray hairs to his head.
What are we thinking? All right, I'm gonna hold that there.
I'm gonna hold it. I can hold it up against this. Just look at the clearance. Like how. Crazy. Looks like a trap. Looks like a plumb trap.
Too bad you can't just buy a trap, a 4-inch stainless trap. Be easier.
As you guys have probably seen in previous episodes, we have already made the provision for the 4-inch exhaust in the front cross member, but just getting up and over that rear end was just a challenge. We had to navigate the pannard rod, we had to navigate the subframe, and just overall the suspension travel of the car as we go up. There's just not much room that we can get in there. Originally, we were going to go under the rear end, but we just didn't like that. It just wasn't neat and tidy enough for us, so we ended up having to go up and over.
No amateur hour.
Did that.
Yeah.
Get it home completely.
So you don't have much error if you don't make that.
No, there is no air place for air.
One of the largest challenges of being able to weld this whole thing together and get it to fit right is actually holding the pieces together. You know, not magnetic. They're huge diameter, they're slippery, they're heavy, big pieces. It's very hard to get the fitment really, really tight so that you can lay a nice bead.
Now, the question is, how much travel do we have?
I'm thinking that's pretty good. Well, that's more than we thought we were gonna have.
3 inches?
Should be more. A little bit more.
Well, because we moved this back, we lost a little.
Yeah, it's guesswork.
Once we know where the exhaust is going to come out of this rear quarter, that's kind of our target, and then we have to build the rest of the mounts and finish weld the exhaust to basically get to that target.
I thought I had it worked out with this, but I could be wrong. So that means, at this angle,
Well, as you cut this pipe,
this pipe's gonna be basically going out at this angle, out the quarter. So it will be cut on multiple angles.
too hot. Too hot for television, exactly. Actually, kind of glad you messed up. That looks pretty good.
Better, huh?
Looks lightweight.
Big and clunky.
Yeah.
No. Thanks, Justin.
Does look better. Oh yeah. Sometimes you just need a little bit of the detail, you know. You can't make sure you can't have it too heavy. Bracket just hanging out there too heavy.
it back and I think it's touching.
I mean, I think it's
somewhat.
wiggling a little.
Oh, yeah, but that's just the face. Nothing I can do about that. It's,
Yep.
Okay, if you could put a mark.
All the way around?
No.
Or just...
there, but I need a alignment mark.
Okay, yeah, hold on one second.
Once we're happy where everything's sitting, it's time to finish weld it and then start looking at maybe potentially a bezel around the exhaust and just seeing how that looks. It may need something. We don't know. We don't want to take away from the exhaust. Everything on this car is fairly subtle, so not too much garnish, if you will.
What was I thinking? Oh my god. We get that in there one piece. We are going to be heroes.
Oh, sorry. It's the other one.
Ah, outtakes.
And that's it for this episode of the Rambler. Next time we tackle the fuel cell, we start mapping out some interior stuff, the intake system, which is a whole bag of snakes itself. And just remember, follow along on our Instagram. We do a little bit more updates on there. And stay tuned, we have some really exciting projects down the line, so you don't want to miss that. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks guys, take it easy.